Hello and welcome to this Unifield tutorial video. In this video we are going to focus on the products likely to expire report. Now the objective of this report is to allow us to analyze the items that we have in stock that are expiry date managed, and if we compare them against a defined consumption method, either the forecasted monthly consumption, the average monthly consumption, or in some cases the real average consumption, then this will give us visibility to say, hey, we have these items in stock, and based on our consumption data, it appears that we will have some left over. We are not going to consume all of these items, and so with this visibility, we can give this information to the medical teams to say, should we donate these items? Should we increase our consumption? It allows us to basically have visibility so that hopefully we don't have items expire and go to waste before we have a chance to find a good use for the items. So with that in mind, we will now move over to Unifield and discuss how to utilize this report. The products likely to expire report can be found in the warehouse application. And once you are here, you will go to the reporting function and you will click on expiry. And here you'll see products likely to expire. So if I open that up, I will see that the first page is simply a dashboard or an overview of the previous reports that have been generated, who generated them, the criteria that they were used, what date range the analysis was for, and which type of consumption metric was used, and finally which stock location. So anytime you want to come back and review a report, you can open up a previous historical report. But in today's example, we want to discuss how to create the report. So we will start with the New button. And here you see you have some filters and criteria to choose from before you can generate the report. And basically Unifield wants to know which products you want to evaluate, which type of consumption you want to compare it against, and what stock location, and finally what date range. So it's always going to start from the current day, so April 14th is today, and I want to look 6 months in the future. So then I will say October 31st. I want to see what items are likely to expire in the next 6 months. And here you'll have a tick box, only products with total expired greater than 0. I strongly recommend that you select that yes, so that instead of the database pulling all the codes in Unifield, which is 20,000 or more, it's only going to pull the codes that have items that have an expiry date between April 14th and October 31st. It's much easier to look at this data and analyze it. The next thing you have to decide is which type of consumption metric you want to use to analyze your expiries. Now, the forecasted monthly consumption can be used only if the mission, or specifically the instance that you're working in, the database, has the FMC imported into it. This is a manual import that has to be done. And if you have imported your forecasted monthly consumption for these specific items, then you can generate the report based on the FMC. Otherwise, you can use the average monthly consumption, which Unifield calculates automatically. And in some missions, the real consumption report is used as a way to destock items. And if you're in one of those missions, you can also use the real average consumption. Now, for most missions, it's going to be the average monthly consumption or the forecasted monthly consumption. So to start with, we are going to look at the forecasted monthly consumption. The next thing you have to do is indicate which stock location you want to view. If you leave this blank and take the report, it will take the global view of all the items you have in your database. You also have the option to tick the exclude input and output locations, which simply means that anything that is waiting to be received on an incoming shipment that has not been finalized, or anything that is in a on a delivery order or on a shipping that hasn't been finalized and hasn't been sent to the customer will also be included. So what I'm going to look at in this report is the med stock. That's the one I'm interested in. And once I choose a specific log stock or specific stock location, you will see that the option to exclude the in and out has disappeared. So to review, for the first sample report, I want to look at the time period from today, April 14th, to 6 months in the future, October 31st. Only items that will have quantity that expires during that time period, using the forecasted monthly consumption that has been imported into my database, and specifically for the med stock location. So now I will click on View Report and wait while the report generates, which can take some time depending on the size of your database. While you're waiting for the report to generate, you'll see that it appears on the kind of the home page for the products likely to expire reports, and it's grayed out, and you can see that it's status in progress. And if I want to refresh that, I can click on the clear button, and sometimes this will take some time to generate, so you can do other activities and then come back and open the report when it's finally ready. Okay, now I can see that my report is ready, and I am going to open it. And once you click on the report you're interested in, you have to also click on View Report. I'll make my screen larger. And now we have the report that we requested. And it shows 73 items that are likely to expire between now and October 31st based on the forecasted monthly consumption. So let's see what this report shows us. Let's take the first item. We see that the monthly consumption is 0, which means that we did not import a FMC for this product code, so the system does not have a way to calculate it. So what I'm going to do is look down at an item. Let's take the first item, the modified fluid, that has a monthly consumption, forecasted monthly consumption of quantity 3. Actually, let me correct that, and let's look at this line as it's more interesting to review. So the sodium chloride. So the first column, the 30, you see is the monthly consumption rate. We will consume 30 pieces per month is the forecasted consumption. Currently, we have 140 in stock that are already expired, meaning that we have not moved these items to the quarantine stock location. And then after that, you have each column that has a number and a date. So for the month of April, 0. And that means that 0 quantity expire during the month of April. Month of May, 0 quantity expire. Same for June, same for July. And when we get to August of 2020, we have 2 numbers. Now the first number, 540, indicates that there is a batch or more, maybe more batches. There are 540 quantity that expire during the month of August. The second number in brackets is the number that will remain in stock to expire if you reduce the amount that were considered to already be consumed. So you have 403 will be in stock in August and will expire. And the reason that the difference between these two numbers is the 403 is the number that will remain in stock to expire after you consider the fact that you have consumed 30 for May, 30 for June, 30 for July, 30 for August. And because this report was generated on April 14th, we know that the half of the month will consume 30, so that's 15. So if we added that together, we would have, what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4 times 30 is 120, plus 15 would be 135. So that's approximately the difference here. And the reason you could find the exact calculation if you were to take 30 pieces divided by, pardon me, let me clarify the calculation. It's always good to be aware that if you don't generate the report at the beginning of a month, you have to calculate the first month as a partial month. So because this report is calculated on April 14th, we know that we have 17 more days in the month, including today. And so with 30 pieces, you do the math as 30 days in a month, you divide the FMC by 30, and you would get the daily consumption, which in this case, 30 divided by 30 is obviously 1. And so for the remaining months, you would calculate the full month consumption. So 30, 60, 90, 120, plus the 17 from the remaining days in April, and the difference is you have 403 that would remain in stock after these months' consumptions have been factored in. And so that's the main function of this report, is to let someone have the visibility that, in August, we'll have 403 left over. We should take some action to either donate those, use those in the mission somehow, so that we don't lose those items to expiry. And you can look for the rest of the time period and see that for September and October, there were no more batches that expired. And the in-stock total quantity shows 680. And so this column indicates how much of this item is in stock in total. So it could be you have more batches that aren't included in this time period from now to October. So this is just the total amount you have in stock. And if you were to look here, you have the total expired 543, which is simply a calculation of the 403 that will expire in August plus the 140 that have already expired and haven't been removed from the system. And you may notice these blue circles containing the information icon. If you click on that, it will show you the information related to the numbers for that month. So if I was to click on this, it shows me that for the month of August, batch number, the expiry date, stock location med, the available quantity, and then after the assumed consumption, 403 will still be in stock to be expired. And so this is how you can have a bit more visibility on the specific batch numbers that are being reflected and calculated in the report. You also have an additional option to review this report in Excel if you prefer that over viewing it inside Unifield. And to do that, you scroll to the bottom, you have the PDF option, but I personally recommend if you review it in the Excel option, it'll give you more features. So I'll click Excel. And once the file opens in Excel, you still see the same information at header level, giving you the details of where the report was pulled from, that stock, the date period is calculating, and which type of consumption is used. The first tab, Products Likely to Expire, simply shows you the same information that you saw inside Unifield. And I believe we were looking in our example at this item. So the consumption of 30, already expired 140, and then the month of August showing the quantity that would remain and expiring given the previous month's consumption. And then you also have these additional tabs at the bottom, and the first one is expired, and that simply shows you anything that's already in the system that's expired at the time you generated this report. And in this example, it's only the one item that we're looking at, the 140 quantity, which was indicated here in this cell. And then each of these tabs shows the month, and it will give an overview for the expired items in that month. So in our example, again, we were looking at August had the expiry. So if I went to the month of August, I will see that there's actually quite a few items that are expiring in the month of August in this report. And the item we were looking at was FBF1, was this item here. And you can see it tells you the specific batch, expiry date, location, and the quantity that will expire given the consumption that you've used to calculate the report. And then, of course, the fully available quantity for that batch in stock. And so here you can simply go through the different tabs and you'll see in April you have these items expiring, May, June, etc. And of course, it's the same information that is here in the overview, but it's condensed to only focus on the specific month. So you have the overview list view, and then you have the month specific throughout the range that you've generated the report for. Now, if you're in a mission that doesn't use the forecasted monthly consumption, or you simply prefer to use the average monthly consumption to generate this report, that is an option also. Let's review how to do that. So for that case, we will generate a new report. So we've gone back to the products likely to expire, and we click on New. Again, it's going to be from today's date, and again, we will say 6 months in the future. That's up to you. And this time, we will choose average monthly consumption. And again, as recommended, I only want to see items that have quantity that will expire during this time period. And when you choose the average monthly consumption, it's going to bring up two more filters. And this is for you to indicate which time period you want the consumption based on. So generally you want to pick at least a 3-month period, maybe 6 months, but you can choose any period you like. So you can look back historically as far back as when Unifield was deployed in your mission and choose 3 months. So in this case, we're going to say January 1st to March 31st. And if you have a period that had really high or unusual or exceptional consumption, you may want to exclude that and pick a period that had what you consider more balanced or normal consumption. Again, I will choose the med stock location and choose View Report. So now we're going to look at a report from today's date until October 31st, quantity that has some expiries before October 31st, based on the average monthly consumption of January to March. And while we're waiting on the report to be created, I'll return to the home screen. Once the report's ready, it will turn green and the status will indicate ready. And at that point, you can click on it, go to View Report, and it will open up the same view of the report from the previous example, except now we are calculating based on the average monthly consumption from January to March. So that means that this number in this column is going to be the AMC. And you'll see that if an item has a 0 quantity, then that means that there was 0 consumption of this product between January 1st and March 31st. And so depending on if you're in a new mission, that you may or may not have 2, 3, 4 months of consumption data in your database. But once you've been deployed for more than 3 months, you'll start to collect some pretty useful average monthly consumption data. So if we take a look at this second item here, the benzyl benzoate, you can see that the monthly consumption so far is 2. There's 0 quantity currently expired, and nothing will expire in April and May, and then in June we have quantity 10 that will expire. But in brackets we have quantity 5. That means that 5 items will remain in stock with this expiry date, considering that we will consume 2 in June, 2 in May, and approximately 1 in April, considering that we've run the report halfway through the month. So we would divide this 2 in half. And if we wanted more information, we could click on the icon and it tells us that it's this batch number that is expiring. It gives us more details on the expiry information. So basically the report is the same. Again, you have the option to take it to Excel if you want. The only difference is which type of consumption method we use to calculate. So if you don't have forecasted monthly consumption configured in your instance, then you can use the AMC, which is calculated in Unifield on any movements of an item out of your database, whether it's on the shipment or a real consumption or, let me make a correction. The AMC is calculated on a shipment that has been processed or a delivery order that has been processed. It does not calculate the donations or loans. And if you use the real consumption report in your mission, then you can use that consumption method as well. If you have any further questions on how the products likely to expire report works, or you want more details about the specific columns or the filters when creating the report, you can look in the manual for more information. In Chapter 5, under the Management of Expiry Dates subsection, you'll see a section called Products Likely to Expire. And in the manual, it will have details for which each of the different columns means, how the data is calculated, and how to configure your filters using the different consumption methods. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we will talk to you next time. Thanks.